I often asked about. So I'm just gonna take a few windows away so that I cannot see them because that is gonna disturb me. There. So I'm just gonna take a very quick view because I'm curious to see who's here and how many we are, how many faces I know. Oh, I see a lot of faces. Hi, Thor. And Siba and Dirk. It's been a while. Yeah. Kristen's been a while. Good to see you. Hello, Avi. My father-in-law is here too. And Anna Maria, good to see you as well. And Francesca, I think. Yeah. Miriam, hi. Nadina, hello. Karen, good to see you. Look forward to see you live soon.
Yes, you too.
Yeah. And Mary, good to see you. You're far away. Matt, not so long ago with you. Good. And Sam, also welcome to you. Yeah, good to see a lot of known faces and everybody who's here that I do not know. Just know that you are super welcome. So let's see, because the topic we're going to talk about today requires that we have a bit of context together. So I've decided earlier today that I didn't want to just talk, because if I just talk, for some of you, you might need something to also look at. We have a lot of messages coming up from Zoom, so I just need to get them out of my face. Good. So one of the things I want to do is that I want to share my screen with you because I made a PowerPoint. And since this is supposed to be for practitioners and professionals, I allowed it to also be presented in that way, which means a little more school-like. But I'll see if I can spice this up a little bit with my sharings and my talkings. Here. Good. So first of all, as you know, the title is The Mastering of Difficult Emotions During Sessions. All of us can have the experience, especially when we work with someone, that sometimes it's super difficult to deal with the emotions in the space. And it's often one of the things that after a session makes us think, oh my God, how do I do this? How do I work with this? And it might also be one of these places where we get super self-critical, thinking like, oh, I can't do that. I shouldn't do this, or I don't know what to do. And it's typically also one of the places where we actually get confronted deeply as practitioners with where we're still lacking to develop ourselves. But let's dive into it and see what we've got, see if it works. So first of all, I need to minimize the screen here. Yeah. Yeah, there. First of all, and emotions, as we're speaking about, it's often considered that it's emotion, energy in motion. Because when you have an emotion, it always happens when there's an energy moving through your body, something that wants to go from one place to another place, something that wants to move and have some sort of a emotion expression, whether it's internal or external, but it's not a silent energy of just being still. So a clever guy that I listened a lot to in the past, Joe Dispenza, he has come up with a good quote, which is, once an emotion has arisen, it will try to get an expression unless you censor it and thus freeze it. What I want to clarify here, however, is that getting an expression doesn't always equal that it has to be an outward expression, because a lot of people today are starting to think that if there's an emotion, it should always be expressed. And that's not necessarily at all the case. A lot of emotions are there for you to just feel and embrace and be with and be able to move through your system, move through your body, but without it in any form actually having to or needing to involve your outer world. Let's see. I'm trying to shift. Nothing much is happening here. Okay, I have a little problem because I have the bottom of the screen is coming up. Oh, that is not. Yeah. Just, I have to go out of the share because this doesn't seem to work, what I went into. Sorry.
Suze, you could try using the arrows down the bottom right of your keyboard. Maybe
Yeah,
that
that was what I was doing. And
Oh.
they were just giving me a click click sound. They weren't
as
doing
techy
anything.
as I get. Sorry.
Yeah, they weren't doing anything. So I'm just gonna try another version and let's see if it works better. Because it's not really, yeah. How do we get that bar out of the way from Zoom? There. It came too far. Okay, firstly, let's put some context into it. First of all, to talk about emotions, we have to have a common ground of speaking, because what are we even talking about? You can define emotions in many ways, and there are a lot of theories about what an emotion is. What is the first thing that makes an emotion become an emotion? Personally, I am very much on to the next one that I'm going to tell you about, which is that it's an inner biochemical reaction in the body by a stimulus, meaning you had something stimulate you and your body started reacting to that. That inner biochemical reaction, you then have put a charge label, meaning onto it, and now you define it as a certain type of emotion. I sometimes do in my other trainings, I sometimes have been doing a test where I give people a description of body sensations. And then I ask them, what emotion is that? And I might sometimes hear from exactly the same description, the same biochemical and physiological reaction in the body. People might be saying to me, oh, that's excitement. And the person right next to say, no, that's fear. Or another one says, oh, that's uncomfortableness. So it's very often a meaning we've added to it ourselves. And emotions are not stationary due to that, because the experience of the exact same biochemical reaction can change if you change the label that you created in the first place onto this body experience. So different things can affect our experience of an emotion. And one of the things is, how safe and secure are you in your attachment to other people, to the world around you, and to life in general? Depending on where you stand on those different platforms, different emotions will affect your system in different ways. Meaning it's like a dial of a volume button. The more safe and secure you are in all your attachment and in your trust in life, the more you will experience that emotions that another person find overwhelming. You think, oh, it's just a little thing, I feel it, but it's not something that feels like a big thing. The labeling language that we use for emotion, nice, bad, good, difficult, amazing, painful, all these often words that have a duality to them. And not just that, it has a judgment to it. But this also affects your emotions and how you're going to experience them. Because if you think about an emotion as sadness, and for you that's a bad, uncomfortable, painful experience, but especially if you use words like bad or uncomfortable or unwanted, if you use these type of labels for that emotion, guess what's going to happen when that emotion hits you? Your experience of the same emotion is going to be much more difficult, because you will then have an inner resistance to actually being in it. On the other hand, if you already have the good, the lovely, the amazing, the nice, then of course it's not so such a problem. But that's why we today are talking about the difficult emotions, because those are the ones that normally are affecting us, not the other ones. But also identification with an emotion can also affect your experience of emotions. In this case, it's more your experience of the emotions of different types. So let's say you are identifying yourself as a very jolly person, someone always happy. When you then suddenly have a day or maybe even a period where you're a bit depressed, you're just, sad, and you're, a bit, grumpy, and you're not happy, and you're all sorts of things that you don't consider jolly, you will now start to again experience that emotion being much more difficult to be in because it no longer fits with your own self-identification of yourself. The self-talk we have also plays a role, because what we say about our mood, we can say it so often that we make it a personal trait, like one of our characteristics. And again, if we then emotionally step out of that container, that our own self-image of our persona type, then we will experience that. We again will experience resistance because we don't want to be that person, because that's not who I am. So the self-talk and the identification with an emotion, they often come very much hand in hand and go quite together. So they can be important to look out for, especially if you know that you do self-identify yourself with a certain type of emotion. Then notice if the emotions that are opposite to that, or much of a contrast to that, if those are emotions that you don't like being in, that you find more difficult to actually handle. Your perception of the emotion also plays a role. This is, again, your perception, meaning, do I think it's something I shouldn't experience in my life? Or do I feel that, okay, it's not a nice emotion to be in, but it's okay to actually experience that? But there can be multiple things about perception, and I'll talk later into that. But also your body posture. There are specific body postures that your body associates with specific type of emotions. So you can have just the fact that you put yourself into a specific body posture, the very modern posture of today, with the head down, looking into the phone, doing like this, the shoulders slightly crunch forward. This is actually an emotion that leads to lack of energy, or posture that leads to lack of energy. It can lead to feeling a bit numb, feeling a bit down, a bit depressed, a bit like I don't care, because that's the emotion types that this body posture is connected to. So just the body posture alone can actually affect an experience of yourself and even create an emotion you actually didn't have if you had put yourself in a more upright, open chest kind of posture. I'm getting the don't do this again. Okay. Yeah. So a difficult emotion, what is that? And again, it completely depends on your perception of what you find difficult. For some people, a difficult emotion is happiness. They do not like to be happy. They don't know how to be in that sensation of happiness. And for them, that means happy is difficult. For others, anger, and this is for many people, anger is deeply, deeply difficult. Most people that has an issue with anger, feeling that emotion to be difficult, might not even know it. What they know, however, is that, oh, I'm never angry, but I can get irritated really easily. Irritation is the light version scale of anger, but it's the same emotion. It's just an emotion where we dialed down the volume button so much that we didn't have to connect to the more big expression of the anger. For some, it's sadness, where they don't want to be sad. And if it's sadness, you can be in so much control of that difficult emotion, sadness, that you never ever feel sadness, just like the people that never ever feel anger. But to the degree where you never even cry, because that part of you just shut off from yourself because you're not allowed to feel it, or you're not capable of feeling it. So the way to know if an experience is difficult is, first of all, an inner experience. So none of us can look at somebody else and say, wow, that's a difficult emotion that they're having right now. Because they might be the person who has absolutely no difficulty with that emotion. If we go back to anger, many people have issues with anger. Other people love their anger because they notice how their anger gives them energy, strength, allows them to set boundaries. So they don't have anything difficult about being in the sensation of anger. Others are so much in anger, not necessarily because they find it enriching of their life, but because they're so used to be in that emotion that that emotion feels comfortable. And because it feels comfortable, that's not difficult for them. The inner experience is what you have. So you, if it's difficult, are the one to decide if it's difficult. But of course, a difficult emotion can also have an outer expression, and it often has that, which is what we typically see as practitioners when we work with clients. Then we will often see the outer expression. And if we're very good at tuning in to really sense what's going on in the, let's say, invisible realm that you cannot see with your 5 normal senses, then you might be aware when there is an inner experience of a difficult emotion or just different type of emotions, because you can feel it within yourself when you truly tune in, and not just tune in, but really make sure that you're not part of the tuning in, because you need to be able to differentiate between what's my emotion right now and what am I picking up on from someone else. So there are different clues to sort of saying, okay, do I know that this is a difficult emotion? One of them is that you are having a difficult time staying present with whatever state you're in. Your mind wanders off, you start getting busy doing things, you don't want to stay with it. It can also be that you get your defense systems of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn activated. Then that might be what is the clue that you are having a difficult emotion, because some people are experiencing that they go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, but they're actually not in a situation right now where anything is going on where they can say, oh, but it's this thing happening in my space and that's why it's happening, which means that most likely it's either a thought that triggered something or it's an emotion that triggered something. So another way is that if you are in a specific emotion and you are in a specific setting, and immediately you start talking about something else, typically something else that is sort of out of context with what you were just in. It can, if other people were listening to you, it will feel like you just grabbed something randomly out of the air and then you swap the topic to there. Again, also, you can pick up on it by your body cues, because it will change your body physiology. That means for sometimes some of the emotion, it will increase your heart rate. It might make you sweat. It might give you sweaty palms. It might give you a sense of tightness in the throat. So you can have all types of body experiences that go with that specific emotion. It can also be that you are in the emotion that are nice, of course, and then you might experience expansion and so on. But and their body cues can also help you know that. Another thing is that you are in some sort of an emotional state, and you don't want to be witnessed by anyone. It's very important that nobody sees you. Because if it's difficult, it means that we have not made peace with this type of emotion yet. We don't know how to peacefully be with it. And therefore, we don't want to be witnessed in it, because we cannot take ownership for that emotion yet. We haven't integrated into our full emotional intelligence. So when we can't do that, we don't want anybody to know that about us. We don't want them to see that I'm actually in this state, and it might actually get us to act super brave and act in a out of fashion that is completely out of line with how your inner emotional experience is at that moment. So it seems like it's going a little weird. It doesn't really work with my changes here. Sorry. Yeah. It just jumps to, you know what? I need to go out because this, for some reason, doesn't work today. It's acting weird in my end.
Maybe sharing not in full screen. Sometimes I know it gets stuck when we share
I have
in
no
full
idea.
screen.
I have no idea not how to do that because I'm quite an idiot when it comes to technique. And normally this works, so that's why it's a bit weird. Yeah, we can try. I just usually don't want you to see what I'm going to put up next. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, we're definitely not there yet. Okay. Whoops. Yeah, and then came my thingy up again. Okay. So I just put up a little book list here. If any of you feel like, oh, I would love to know a bit more about how I can read more about emotion so I understand a bit more about it. Then there are a couple of books here that can be quite good. The first one about emotional intelligence, that one will also teach you about what all the building blocks of the emotions are. The other one, the next one, is more about the science behind mind-body medicine, meaning that Candace Peart was a scientist who died back in 2013, who devoted her entire life to actually discover where in the brain are all the different what's it called, enzymes and so on that are all the biochemistry that is linked to the different emotions and where they move around in the body. And also Renee Brown is also doing quite a good job of speaking into being in the heart, but not just in the heart, with the emotion and how to develop your, let's say, emotional intelligence if you find that it's not big enough. Secondly, this is what we already did. Yes. So when we're working with people in sessions, there's some questions that are good to ask. And one of them is, where does the emotion come from? Because often we're assuming that, oh, it's about what's going on in the space. But there are so many things that can actually affect what type of emotions are present in a session space, but also how we view it and how we see it. First of all, the emotion, is it the practitioner's own difficult emotion? Meaning it's the practitioner who is in emotional trouble right now, not the client. Or is it the client experiencing a difficult emotion? Another thing that can affect it very much is it preconceived ideas about what a difficult emotion is and convictions about them? This will play a role also in how we will be able to manage and move in the emotions. If we're looking at the practitioner, then let's first ask ourselves, what is the origin of the difficult emotion? Are we talking about I'm being triggered? It's triggers. Is it fears that are coming up? Do I feel insecurity? Am I feeling inadequate? Is it about limited capacity to hold emotional experiences that are coming up? Or is it something completely different? And if it's something completely different, this is where you have to look deep inside for yourself to investigate and discover what is the origin of your difficult emotion that gets present in the session space, because you need to know what it is and where it's coming from so that you know where to look to actually start doing the work. Because if you have difficult emotions coming up in the space, there's a couple of things also to be aware of. First of all, if it's triggers, where do they come from? Are you being triggered from something in your private life? Or is it something about the client's way of being, of expressing themselves emotionally or talking, or anything about the client expression that is triggering you? Another thing that many aren't aware is a trigger is if we are having a goal on behalf of our clients and the client is not following our goal for them. And that can even be if it's subconscious goals we're having. We might not even be aware that we were having not just an intention, which means an invitation for them, but we're actually having a goal on their behalf. And that can then trigger irritation, frustration, anger, insecurity, all sorts of things when the thing you're expecting to happen doesn't happen. Fear could come up, and that might very well be, maybe there's lack of experience as a practitioner, and therefore the fear comes up inside the section. Maybe previously you have had bad experiences with this specific client or this type of topic that you're dealing with in this same section. So now coming back into having to do this either continued work with this same person or the same type of topic can then activate something, especially if you haven't, after your previous bad experience, made sure that you actually work through it in yourself, which could then give you a sign that you're still holding on to some energetic experience in your system, and that is getting triggered in future sessions. Negative feedback on sessions given earlier can also induce fear, because there can be this concern about what do they think about it, what are they going to say about me. And again, if we have those kind of thoughts, then first of all, we're not secure enough in our work. And second, we're making other people's opinion in general about us maybe too important, because I'm not saying don't take feedback in, but feedback shouldn't affect a session that has nothing to do with it. And also fear can be a result of feeling inadequate. Because I don't feel adequate for what I'm actually attempting to do right now, it activates fear in my system. It could be insecurities as well, or the feeling of inadequacy could be also coming from lack of self-esteem or lack of sufficient training and experience. So that, and there's actually one more, because it can also be that you have personal, you've been brought up always being told you're not good enough. Whatever you do, it's never sufficient, it's never good enough, it should be more, it should be better. If that is not worked through you yet, then that will come into your session space as insecurities or feelings of inadequacy, even if you're very well trained. The limit capacity to hold emotional experience could also be a reason in you. And that might be that you have too little experience to have learned it yet. So that means that you are still, let's say, young in sense of gaining experience on holding emotional spaces and holding the capacity to guide others through emotional experiences. Again, it can be lack of sufficient training, that you have limited capacity to hold it simply because you are not trained well enough. And also, if there's limited capacity to hold emotional experiences for yourself or for others, this means that there's still a lot of inner work to do, especially if it's about your own emotional experiences. Then you're not done with your own emotional work. If we look at the perspective of the client, then again, ask the same question. What is the origin of the difficult emotion in the client? Is it a trigger or multiple triggers? And if it's triggers, then we'll look into those. If it's a trauma response, is that it? Is it sort of a habitual, something that comes up? Is it something where it's still very well connected to the triggers, and then the fear comes out as a trauma response? Or is the difficult emotion the result of stuck energetic emotions releasing from the body? So why is an emotion difficult? Again, for your client's perspective, we're talking about they might have limited experience having emotional experiences. Maybe they're normally always flatlining. They're never really happy. They're never really angry. They're just sort of, mediocre at all times. And if they then go into a session with you and suddenly things get activated, lots of stuff starts happening, and emotions they might never have been in connection with, or they've always been in connection with it in its lightest volume. That could be, I've always only felt irritation, and suddenly now I'm feeling anger, and I have no bodily or mental experience or capacity of how to move in this experience. So that can create difficulty than actually being in it. this leads to also the lack of an emotional container. If we don't know how to be with all emotions in different volumes, it means that our emotional container is either not there at all, or it is just too narrow. It can only hold low volume emotions. Another one, which is very big for a lot of clients, if they are experiencing difficult emotions, we can have two kinds of these. Is that we have the client that clearly is having an emotion going on, but they're fighting everything they can to not enter it. Or they are gone full into a difficult emotion, but now they are deeply struggling and they just want to get out of it. And they might get frantic. They might even, for some, go into panic. Because within themselves, there is no permission to feel it. So when that comes up, it is now conflicting with one of their convictions. Because the convictions has a lot to do with how we are experiencing our emotions. First of all, the conviction about what each emotion means, but also our conviction about when am I allowed to have and experience that emotion, or the conviction I'm not such a person that ever has that emotion. And if it then suddenly comes up, there is absolutely no permission to feel that emotion, because the conviction I am not such a person is putting a complete lid on it. Might be that they are fighting and resisting the emotions in general. And that can be based on many things: the lack of permission, the fear of it, the emotion. But it can also be the last thing, that there is no trust within the client that if I enter this space that I know within myself is going to be so difficult, I don't trust that support is possible. And that means that we might work with them and have done everything we can to create support for them. But if again they have a conviction that support is just not possible to receive when someone is me, that means that that deep belief within them will basically not trust that if I go into this, I can be helped. And that means when the emotion comes up, there will be an inner fighting, an inner conflict, an inner fear, and there will be an experience in the client of this is very difficult. And they might either go into shutdown, meaning they just close completely off, they go numb, or they will be very restless, or some of them will go into crying like a little baby, like they go into fetal position of no, this is too much, I can't handle it, take it away from me. They want mommy to take it away. So there can be many different expressions of it. But these are quite typical reasons why it's difficult emotions. There are many more, but these are just some headliners. So the convictions and the preconceived ideas, here we need to, first of all, if we have an idea, when we discover that and are realizing there's difficult emotions present, we have to first of all be aware who's having this view. Am I, as a practitioner, having the view that my client is having difficult emotions just because they might be into deep crying or deep anger or anything that is not on the easy scale of emotions? So is it the client that's having the conviction, the idea about how it should be? Is it you as a practitioner who is having an idea, or is it both of you? And if it's both of you, you might not even match on how you're viewing these things. So when you have this, you can ask a question. If you realize, okay, there are some convictions here that are sort of influencing these difficult ideas or difficult convictions and difficult emotions, then ask yourself if these ideas and convictions, do they conflict with being able to allow that emotion to run its natural course, to actually allow yourself to feel what you are feeling, to not start fighting it or start trying to get that experience you're in to fit into your ideas or your convictions. Are you allowing yourself that natural flow that emotion wants to take through your body? Or does it start to get you to try, push, and control the experience or your release or the work you as a practitioner are doing on someone into a specific direction. So again, are the convictions supporting or are they blocking the ability to move with the emotion, to feel it, and to hold and hold space for it? Because sometimes we actually have supporting convictions. A conviction could also be whatever emotion is going to come up in me, I'm going to face it. That's a super supportive. That one is not going to be in the way. Only the ones that are like, I'm not that type of person, it's not allowed, this is for others, and so on, they will be in the way, and they will actually be you have to deal with them as conviction work, where you have to go in and look at the convictions, because if not, then every time emotions come up that are difficult, the conviction will hold them on and will not allow the person to really learn to move through it. There will always be the resistance, and the resistance will have its root going down and straight into the conviction, where the suppressing of going into the emotion comes from. So first of all, that's a note from my side. Convictions about how to deal with emotional expressions in sessions can lead to something that we, especially if we have them, that we do not see clearly what is actually expressing itself in front of us, nor do we see what the right action is. This is why conviction about emotions, being in emotions, experiencing emotions, going through emotions, whether it's okay to have emotions, whether they shouldn't have had, all those type of convictions, it's very important as a practitioner that we clear those things out of our system, because if not, we will be watching the world through glasses that are seeing through the convictions, and we will try to push whatever we are seeing into fitting our conviction. So we won't see the session clearly, and we won't see what the right action is clearly either. This will often lead us to start pushing or encouraging people to go into forced releases or forced catharsis. And the catharsis, for those of you that don't know what it is, that's a very strong or extreme expression of emotions. If it comes in its spontaneous version, means that that extreme or strong version comes from within by itself, because the energy is right, it's there, then it's super healing and can in one experience clear years and years and years of work, that if you do it like layer by layer, you would have to spend much more time. But a lot of the time today, when people go into catharsis, they're going into forced catharsis, meaning they're pushing, they're encouraging, they're pushing forward without the body actually being there at this time, without any breath or emotional clues supporting that whatever we want to do right now is actually the right thing. Or we might start too early to encourage a client to, yeah, go into it, whoa. And we're pushing on like we're a sports commentator, or, you know, we're the boxing coach, like trying to give some spunk from the side, which can get a client to falsely go into something which is actually not truly allowed inside of that. So when we come to it being the practitioner's emotions, first of all, if it happens in the middle of the session, pause what you're doing. No matter what you do, just pause. If you're out working, just pause, put your hand on the body, and tune your attention into yourself. Tune in, settle yourself, feel your feet or your bum or your knees on the ground, breathe. And then another important thing, acknowledge that this is your emotion, that you are the one having a difficult emotion right now. Because if you don't acknowledge that very clearly to yourself, you have a risk that you're going to project it onto your client as being their emotion. And you will start looking at it as, I'm probably picking it up from them. I hear and see that a lot in my trainings when it's clear for me that, no, this is actually the practitioner's own struggle, or the participants' trainee's own struggle, that are being projected onto the receiver as being their stuff. And when you then have acknowledged, okay, this is my emotion, or this is my shit, whatever word you like to use about your thing, then you have to be able to park your emotion for after the session. And what I mean is to consciously take that state you're in and say, not now, here's a bucket, oops, down in it, I'll deal with you later. And then it's for after the session, and it's super important. You have to deal with it after the session. If you have a client coming right after and therefore you didn't have time to do it, you had to go straight into the next, you have to deal with it by the end of the workday. Because if not, then your own system will stop allowing you to park anything because you never come back. So you cannot do it as a fake it. I'll just tell my system I'm gonna park it, and then I get peace and quiet from it, and I don't have to take care of it. No, that doesn't work, because that will not allow your body and your mind and your subconscious system to actually train yourself into deliberately parking it, putting it there, and then when you're done with your work or your workday, coming back and then dealing with it. If you can recenter, I should say, yourself, then just go back into your session and continue your work. All of this, depending on how trained you are in it, can take anything from a few seconds to a couple of minutes. If it takes a much more than that, you'll have to speak to your client about why you're not continuing, or you'll have to come up with something to fill out the gap of you not doing anything anymore. In general, if you can't easily park it and acknowledge and pause and recenter yourself to continue, then go out. Tell your client, I need to go for a little pee, I'll be back. And then when you go out, ground yourself. Here, use breath. Use a standing posture. And a standing posture is one that looks like this. Okay, I have to see myself, because if not, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. So a standing posture is you doing like this. You need to have your body look like an X. Oops. You need to look like an X. And what
Suzanne, we still,
sorry?
Suzanne, we can't see what you're doing, because we see.
I'm on my screen, of course.
Yeah.
It's only me who can see me. Okay, stop sharing. Stop sharing. There. What happened? Okay, this is just too weird. Yeah. My computer is doing really weird stuff today. So what you do is you stand like this. And you have to have this X position, hands like this, stretch fingers in the air, and you breathe. Actually, I'd like you guys to all get up and do it with me right now. I'll put us on a multiple view so I can see what you do, and then we're going to guide you through it. Because what you do when you're doing this is that you are slowly, you're connecting right now to the ground and to the sky, basically. And there's always streams of energy running from the sky to the ground. It does that naturally. That's just how physics are of the world. You don't want your arms bent. You want them fully stretched. So you really need to look like an X. And then you breathe in. Breathe in on 2. Slowly exhale on 4. Breathe in on 2. Slowly exhale on 4. Those of you sitting down, I'll encourage you to stand up, because you should feel something doing this. And exhale on 4. Then you release your hands. What you're doing here is that you're allowing the natural flow of energy that comes from the cosmic, the way the ether and the cosmos and energy between heaven and sky always moves with the positive and the negative and ions. And you're allowing those energies to now use you basically like a conductor. But what it does when it used you as a conductor to come from the sky to the ground is that it pulls you down. It takes you with it. And that means in a very, very short time, you can feel in your body, especially if you're a little like, ugh, you'll feel like, ooh, there's just a load that's taken off, and you don't have to stand for more than about between 3 and 5 breaths. That's it. It's very, very fast. If you want to make it stronger and even more efficient, then you add a sound of, so a W-O-O-O sound. So you add that sound to it while you do it, because that sound will come from your sacral area of your body. And that means that also with the vibration of the sound, it helps pull you even more into your own center of your pelvis. Okay, let's see if I can manage the sharing again. Hopefully it works. Okay. Yeah. So what we will, whoops, no, I don't want quick notes. There. Besides that, you can use that breath form of 2 and 4 or 3 and 6, depending on what is comfortable or uncomfortable for you. Cold water on your neck. So put your head over the sink, cold water over your neck, and also on your lower arms, all the way up to your elbows, because what that helps do, again, is it helps you clear energetic states in your body, and especially emotional states in your body. And then again, as a practitioner, if this happens in your session, really be honest and ask yourself a question. Do I still need to deepen my own emotional skills? Do I still need to clear stuff from my own thing? I'm not saying if you need to still deepen and still work on this, that you cannot work with clients, but it's more to not, as a practitioner, end up becoming lazy, because it's easy for us, if we have years of experience, to actually get lazy and think, I know it all by now, I can do it all, and I'm too good to have supervision, I'm too good to still dive in and keep clearing, I'm too good to, constantly work on clearing and expanding my own container. So it's a good question to be honest with ourselves about. If it's the client's emotion that happens, let's say you're doing some sort of work on the client and all of a sudden they go into a very difficult emotion. If it's body work and the emotion is difficult, but it's an emotion, when I say difficult here in the client's work, I'm not meaning that it's difficult because the client is crying a lot. I don't mean that it's difficult because the client is angry. I mean, it's difficult if the client is in an emotional state and trying to fight it, trying to avoid it, try to not feel it, want to get out of it. That's a difficult emotion. The others are just emotions that are less easy to enjoy. Normally, I don't talk about good emotions and bad emotions. I talk about easy emotions and less easy emotions, because anger and sadness and fear are less easy emotions to be in than joy and happiness and love. But for me, they're all just emotion on the same string. So there's really no difference there for me. It's all emotions, none are good, none are bad. They're all part of the spectrum. They're all needed in our total system of who we are. In our evolution, we need all the spectrums of emotions. So also here, when the client has a difficult emotion, we're talking about that they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to be in it, and they want to get away from it. Which means that as long as the client keeps wanting to get away from an emotion, that emotion and the capacity of holding space for that emotion will never get integrated into the system unless we help them. So here, first of all, shift the focus away from what you were doing. Have together with the client, you start together allowing the presence of the emotions, becoming curious, investigating the difficult emotion together by holding space for it, by breathing into it, by inviting the emotion to be experienced. Let's say doing that overwhelms them. Then what we do is we create a safe space. This has to be done. If this is needed to have in session, you need to do safe space training when the client is not emotionally affected, because it's a space they need to create. They can always return to if something feels dangerous, so they can take them out of something that's too much to a place that gives them a little safe haven for a little while, and then they basically tiptoe in and out of it. So ask the client to look inside and experience what is it that this emotion is looking for? What is it trying to tell me? What is it trying to make me aware of? And someone will say to you, I can't do that. I don't know how to look for that. If that happens, I always use but imagine if you could ask the emotion and it would answer you. Then what do you think it would say? Because this is a way to surpass the resistance of not wanting to, because the going directly there can feel too scary, too dangerous. But I'm just going to imagine I could do it feels less dangerous. But guess what? On a level of actually meeting emotion, the client is doing the exact same work. It just doesn't feel the same within their mental capacity. Difficult emotions could be panic. And let's say panic comes up in a session. First of all, talk calmly to the client, but clearly and very direct. Don't use too many words, not too many explanations, because if someone is in panic, they cannot understand a lot. They can hear small, short sentences with very clear information, not long sentences with a lot of things. And don't use a sugar sweet voice, because someone who's in a panic, they're looking for danger, and that means that their ears are tuned for scary stuff, not sweet little mommy or daddy voices. So here, if you need to call someone, then first of all, make sure you know what the name of your client is, because I don't know by you, but a few times I've actually in the middle of a session been like, oh shit, I don't remember the name all of a sudden. And that's not very good if we actually have to be able to call them, because then you have to call them by their name. If it's possible, ask for eye contact. And the reason why I say if it's possible is because for some people, because of the trauma they have in their system, direct eye contact is too confrontational, which means that those you ask to clearly focus on a point instead, not on you. Because if you ask for eye contact and you ask them to stay in eye contact with you, you would actually increase their panic and maybe even take them into a deep panic attack. So you have to have a knowledge about that. And if you don't have a knowledge about that, and you are asking for eye contact and they give it to you, but then immediately they leave you and they seem more frightened, more panic, then you know, okay, eye contact, not a good idea right now. And then you'll ask them to focus on an object or a wall or a ceiling, preferably something which is already in the direction of where their view is, but also something where you can actually see their eyes and see if they are actually looking at anything. Because if not, you're not aware of whether or not you're getting them out. The reason for eye contact or open eyes is because when someone is in panic, it's very important to orient yourself to the space around you. So you can also, when you have the eye contact and you feel like, okay, there's a certain level of connection, or they're focusing on something, but you clearly feel there's a connection through the voice, you can ask them to start just slowly look around in the room and take notice of where they are, what it looks like, so that they gradually get their body to realize, oh yeah, I'm here, this is where I'm at, this is what's going on. Another thing you can use, which I have in my session space, is to use pure essential rose oil for sniffing. So you simply just, if they have a panic attack, you bring it up really near the nose, not necessarily straight under the nose, but just near the nose, and you ask them to just breathe, and then breathe the rose oil in. Rose has a very unique influence on how the body activates calmness, sense of peace, and no danger in the body. There's a lot of research that's been done on essential oils, and rose oil is the only one that has been found to have this impact, that if someone are in fear or in high distress, then when they start sniffing roses, the whole body goes like, oh, there's no problem, we can relax. And they simply just calm down. It can be very unique to see that happen, because it can happen in absolutely no time, from complete panic attack to 5-10 breaths, and then they're suddenly looking at you like, what happened? Because now they're back and they don't really understand why they were just like that before. So I will always, when there's panic, I will always use the rose oil for it. but at the same time, I'll be doing the other things. But sometimes the pure oil on its own is simply enough. And I've experienced taking people out of very deep panic attacks only with the oil, where we didn't even get to do any of the other things. And within like 10, 30 seconds, they were completely back and settled. If they've had a panic like that, you have to feel into when they're settled back in. Do you have to stop the session? Was that enough for today? Or was that just a little bump in the road and there's still space and availability in them to actually dive back into the session and continue? Use breath with them just like we did. Exhale double as long as the inhale. So whatever length they can breathe in, double the out breath. If people are in panic, their in breath is very short. And that means at that time, you cannot tell people breathe in on 4 because the body literally cannot do that. So there you say, okay, breathe in, okay, and then slowly out, breathe in, slowly out. And then gradually you can increase the time. Again, the woo sound, have them hum. And it's best if the teeth, upper teeth, are touching the lower lips. Because then the sound and the vibration comes deeper into the belly. And when there's vibration in the belly, it also activates the vagus nerve all the way down there, and it tells the body no danger. While you're doing these things, keep repeating, you're safe, your body is safe. Here, however, you really have to learn how often to say it, when to say it, and that is by practice, by faulting in what you're doing. Because sometimes people are like, oh, I need to say you're safe, your body is safe. So they go, you're safe, your body is safe, you're safe, your body is safe. That is just too much. And the person will be like, whoa, just stop whatever you're doing. So it has to come in a natural way. And you can see on their body language when you say it, if it actually helps them. Because when they hear it and they need to hear you safe, your body is safe, you might have to, if there's no response, repeat it a couple of times, but do it calmly and slowly. You're safe. You're here. Your body is safe. Your body is safe. You might have to say it a couple of times, but a little pause in between. Anger is another emotion that for many people are difficult. Anger, if people are in it, and especially if they have a very hard time holding the container for it, they might actually start expressing that anger towards you. And for some, if you are not cleared on your own anger issues and your own connection with the experience of anger, especially the experience of anger expressed towards you, you might end up taking it very personal in the session and get triggered by it. When there's anger expressed towards you in a session, don't take it personal, because it's an expression of what's going on inside the client. If they, when they're calmed down, the session is over later on, and it's clear that it's not projection because they didn't want to take on their own emotions, then you can listen to what were they angry about and take it in. But in the moment of the session, do not take it personal. Just look at it as an emotional expression. If the anger is there again, is it difficult because the client is afraid of anger? Many men are afraid of their own anger because they are afraid of their anger leading to rage and violence and physical expressions of violence. And others are afraid of anger because anger has been coming at them from others when they were smaller. Maybe angry parents, angry school teachers, yelling people, older people that were just yelling and screaming at you. So, and it might still sit in the system because it hasn't been integrated yet. Again, we come back to the question about permission. Is there permission inside of me to have the emotion of anger? That's one thing. The next question is there inside of me an inner permission to even express or feel emotions? That's another thing, because you can have a permission for having them, but not a permission for expressing them. Or a permission for having them, but definitely not a permission for feeling them. This makes no sense. And that's because convictions are not reasonable. They do not make sense. They are chaotic, and they are often even opposing each other. And then again, Are you, when the anger is coming up now, are you to support going deeper into it? Are you to encourage it and encourage the experience? Or are you to simply just witness the anger? If you are to support it and encourage it, then of course it's important to have some tools. First of all, to be able to do that, you have to really truly be able to work with anger with other people and support them well through an anger process. First of all, you have to solve your own anger issues. You cannot be afraid of anger as an expression. You cannot be in a state where you cannot access it in yourself if you want to. Because if we have to support someone where they are not completely suppressing it, but it's like there's a little bit of lack of permission giving. So I'm sort of going to the anger, but I don't know if it's fully okay. There they need support and permission giving. And that's done by us actually saying, oh, come on, you can do that. Really? You're going to accept that. So there we might use our capacity to move into an anger emotion within ourselves to allow them, without it being a scary emotion, but just that aggression in emotion, in anger, sorry. And then again, we have to also have dealt with our own convictions about what anger truly is. Because many of us have false convictions about what anger is, what the reason for anger is. Like, and also again, many has the convictions that anger is a bad feeling. Anger is a life important emotion. Without anger, we would not have survived till this day of life in society. Because anger is also, the emotion of anger is also where your aggression comes from. Your aggression is what you're tapping into every time you truly want to perform something, when you want to truly manifest something that is not so easy to manifest because it requires something. It's the aggression that exists within this that you're tapping into. So if you're shut down and off from your own anger, you actually will have quite a hard time accessing your full potential and capacity of the positive side of aggression, the one that makes things happen. Can you hold space for anger in a session if that anger is directed towards you? If they start, basically projecting their hate for their mother or their father onto you, and they start yelling at you like, fucking, I hate you, you shit, and you did this, and you should move. Can you just allow yourself to shortly be a stand-in and allow them to, let's say, use you as a screen for whoever it is they're seeing within themselves? But that requires that you don't take it personal, that you can actually manage that coming at you without you feeling that that's got anything to do with me. But I can allow it like winds in the air just flowing by me. If you can't, then you cannot do this type of work with people. The only thing that is important when it comes to anger to not allow is physical expression of anger coming towards you. So no hitting, no kicking, no biting. Even if you know that your client is in a tough situation, do not allow it unless you are doing anger work with them, where you are helping them to express anger, but you are holding the space for it. You're holding the container of how we do that, how much we do that, when we don't do that. If you can't hold that container, then anger work as a practitioner is not safe for you to do, because you need to, even if someone goes into deep, deep anger, you need to be able to, by your inner stability, call them back to, okay, enough. And that is absolutely possible to do in anger work, no matter who you work with, but you have to be super clear within yourself. A little warning, because a lot of practitioners love anger work, like truly, truly love anger work. And often love anger work because it was a very important step in their own development. But what often happens is that they project their own love and their own importance on anger work, expressive anger work with hitting and kicking and screaming. they're projecting that onto, we have to do anger work in the session. And that might not at all be how this client is supposed to meet anger. Maybe this client is supposed to meet anger in a very soft, gentle, allowing, just be with it experience. So if you're very much in love with anger work, always really double check yourself. Is this my love for it? And is it because I'm projecting my own story of what helped me so much into now believing this is what's going to help everybody else? Okay. Let me see. Yeah, I think I'm gonna round it up now because we're already past time. But first, what I'd like to do with you is I want to show you a few very simple things you can do also. These, this picture here is a graph you can do where you do put a pressure, it's pressure points, and it's on this soft tissue right between the two fingers, and you press on each side with both hands, and you press on it, and you hold it. You can also rub it, circular or whatever, that doesn't matter. These here are calming points, and many will experience that when they do this, but they will be like, wow, they're very sore. But these are points that if you as a practitioner feel like, oh, I'm not fully stable within myself, you can do this. And this is something, let's say you're noticing while you're talking with your client, or you're doing something where you don't need both your hands right now, or you don't need your hands at all right now, and you're noticing, I don't feel fully calm. You can use this one. You can just very gently, because you actually only need to do this for anywhere between 5 and 15, 20 seconds, typically max 30, and then you can let it go. Or here, it's right where the bone is. So if you tip your hand like this, you will feel the bone. Right here. Oops. So here you tip the bone. And again, here you do the same. You just hold and press, and you can also do a little massage. And again, it's between 10 seconds up to 30 seconds. This is also points that are helping the body regulate and calm down. Looks like. Just give me a second. Yeah. And then the last one, the point you were just is here when you open your thumb. So now you're on the thumb side, but when you feel this, you have to go one fingerprint below. So you can put 2 fingers and they should be under where your hand is doing this waving. And then you remove the finger that was the closest to your wrist. And again here, press and massage a little bit. These 3 points are very, very simple points that you can use in order to give yourself a little bit of calmness stimulation within your system. There. Okay. So all in all, what is needed for a lot of us when it comes to difficult emotions as practitioners is first and foremost to make sure we're quite self-regulated ourselves, and that we have an inner container that is really, really big to be able to hold space for difficult emotions in others, but also to be able to hold space for difficult emotions in ourselves that might come up in a session, so that they do not end up becoming disruptive of the session. And the skills that are linked to this is, of course, there's the psychotherapeutical part of it, where we get to understand our convictions and our past, maybe if it's even needed, if it's not needed good enough to just clear through body work. And also it's about developing an inner container. And what I mean by an inner container is that it's having the capacity for inner silence, the capacity for awareness. So I don't know why, but my screen is right now making drawings all over the screen. Maybe you can see that too. I'm not doing it. So inner silence, inner awareness of where you're at all moments, or most of the moments, and what is going on within you. How to hold space, like really hold a solid container space, and how to be present. So presence, having that sense of inner presence and outer presence in your world. These are key skills to be able to work successfully with deeper and difficult emotions in clients or in yourself as well. And therefore, I just want to let you know that we do have one retreat in the Gaia method, which is called the Embody Yourself retreat. And that one comes up in, well, about 2 months, I think, 2.5 months from now, on 29 August to 6 September in the Netherlands. And in this retreat here, it's a retreat all-inclusive, so both with food and sleeping, all is included. And what we'll teach you on this one is actually guide you through a lot of different ways to evolve your emotional capacity, to do practices you can take home and continue, but also to do work through those 6 days that it lasts, to develop that part in yourself. Because developing your inner container is something that requires not a one-time thing. That's something that requires that we come back multiple times and build on more and more and expand more and more and more. So those of you who are, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen again. So those of you who are here tonight watching this, or those of you that are watching the replay, if you watch it fast enough, we are offering a discount of 200 euros to join the Embody Yourself. What you need to do when you register, you will see when you register that there is something called a discount code, and you have to write mastering. So if you write mastering, can you write that in Naomi in the chat? So if you write mastering 24, that will be what makes us know that you are entitled to it. But this code will only be open and valid for the next 48 hours. After that, we're going to close it again. So if you want to come in on that price, you need to register before that. I'm not saying you need to pay before that, but you need to register before that. And I don't know if we have questions. I think we originally said this would take an hour, but I've never done this masterclass before, so I actually had no proper sense of how much time it would take me to go through the stuff. But if there are any things that, questions or anything, then please say so. Anyone that signed up, you will get a replay. So everybody who signed up, you will get a replay from it. Yeah.
So Suze, the first question in the comments is, I still haven't solved all my anger issues, but I seem capable to accept and hold space when anger is present for my clients.
Yeah.
That's all it says.
Yeah. And that's good, because it still means that someone is halfway. Because if you have not solved anything at all regarding your anger issues, you can't deal with other people's anger issues, because you will take it as projections on you. Lots of people work with the anger and still need to work more with their own as well. So it just means that you've developed one leg, but not 2 legs on anger on yourself. So that's good. Yeah.
And Franziska's got her hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talked about in autumn, you're going to do a retreat where you bring in your way to deal with the inner child process.
Yes.
Is that going to be in the same retreat, or is that another one?
No, the inner child work is in advanced training. That's got nothing to do with Embody Yourself. It's 2 very, very different things.
Okay.
Yeah. So if there are any questions about anything, then we have the option to take some Q&As right now. So.
And I don't understand what you mean. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question? If you can.
Yeah, it's about I saw you blowing secret on somebody for the person getting back in the here and now. So it's like calming down the nervous system, I think.
I could do Florida at the women's retreat.
Ah, you mean from the retreat?
And-
Yeah. So if you're someone who works with okay, so she's referring to a retreat we had where we had someone who had but that was someone who had a hard time rounding back from a slight dissociation. And someone who normally works a lot with master plans and had a bottle of something called Aqua de Florida standing next to her, which is why I asked her if she wanted me to spray her with it. And spray someone with Aqua de Florida basically means that I take it in my mouth and basically spit it out on them on different parts of the body. The Aqua de Florida is a flower alcohol from the jungle that has the capacity to clear fields. But it definitely, when people are also already deep into it, then it works even better. So that's why I used it on her. She had the capacity and it helped her. But it's not something I would normally do on traditionally in a session with someone who has never met that universe, because they will, to be honest, most of them would think you were a what's called rating lunia. So yeah. And but because with people that are more shamanically inclined, I might also use drumming for calming them down. So there's lots of things you can do. But for a lot of, let's say, people that are more used to things that are more mainstream normal, that becomes too alternative and too weird for them, because you also have to work often within the context of people's own container. So if I want to use these type of things with them, I have to give them a thoroughly explanation first about why I would want to do it and what is the benefit, and get their permission also to work that way. Yeah.
No other questions in the chat, Suze?
No, last time we had so many. Yeah. Yeah. So Marcus is asking about rose oil. Your client is allergic to rose oil. The question is, are they allergic to the smell of rose? Because you will not touch the client with the essential oil. It's very important. This is purely for smelling and sniffing. You don't leave any drops of rose oil on them. And I wouldn't recommend it either, because the bottle I have of rose oil, which unfortunately the cap hadn't been screwed on proper last time we had been away at a retreat. So when I came home, it was empty, and there we're talking about 1 milliliter cost 100 euros. It's that type of quality, but that is now unfortunately gone. And but with that one, I mean, it's so expensive. I would never offer a drop, because 1 milliliter is 20 drops. so it's normally been one I had purely for the smell of it. But yes, lavender oil is calming, but lavender oil would not have the same impact on panic attacks as the rose oil has. They have, in the research they did, they tried with all types of oils. No other oil at all has that capacity. And what they came up with was that it seemed like there's some deep, deep primordial instinct that says, if it smells of roses, you're in a safe place. And that it's so deep ingrained in the whole instinct of our system that when that scent comes near, the whole nervous system just starts relaxing, even when the person is actually in fear.
It was just a smell, because she has a problem with her femininity. So to her, it smells too feminine, and that actually shuts her down.
Yeah. Is that just her normal liking of it, or is that if she was in a panic?
It puts her in a panic almost. When she smells roses, it's like, oh shit, that's too feminine. It's too much about female stuff.
Okay, but if she can talk to you like that, then she's not in panic. Then she might be in an agitated state, because when people are in panic like that, they wouldn't start to tell you this is too feminine. They're too much in the fear.
Okay.
So I would say she hasn't been in a state where that oil does its work. I'm talking about when people are literally in panic attack, like full on. I mean, the marvels I've seen this oil done, and in time frames that are unbelievable, is very, very unique. And it's only within the last, I think, year and a half that I got to learn about it. So I've spent many years spending up to half an hour calming people down after a real panic attack. And suddenly it takes me half a minute, sometimes 5. And then we're completely out of something where they were completely lost from the surrounding. So yeah, but thank you.
Thanks.
Suze, you gave the wrong dates for Embody Yourself. Embody Yourself is from the 14th to the 18th of August. You gave the dates for sexual de-armoring.
Oh, that's a problem. Yeah, good. Yeah, but then it's not true what I said either, because then it's at Finwoude.
Yes, it's in at Winwoude, 14 to 18.
Okay. Then it means that it's including food, but you have to arrange for sleeping yourself. That can be done at the venue in different ways. And I'm not involved in that at all because the venue takes care of that themselves. But we're still offering a discount, which means that instead of paying, is it 1360 normally, and then it's 1160. Now I forgot. Can you check that fast for me? I think we mean that it means that we'll be down on 1160 instead of 1360. Yeah, so the price will be 1160. If any of you have have a business with a legal what's that called? With a legal VAT, and what I mean by legal VAT means that when I go on the VAT account system and I check your VAT number, I'm told that you can get invoices without VAT. That means for some of you, if you have your company and you sign up with and from your company, you will get it at an even lower rate, because the VAT in Denmark is 25%. That will be deducted from that price. But you have to not live in Denmark, because I'm a Danish company, so I will ask for VAT from anyone who comes from Denmark, but people coming from abroad, attending, if they sign up from the company, they can get it tax-free. But tax-free from my end, you still have to do reverse taxing in your own country, so you'll still be paying tax, but just at home, just so you know. Just means that you won't pay the money to me. Yeah.
Sue's last question, what's the name of the place where you get your oil, the rose oil, from in Rotterdam?
So the place I'm gonna write it, because it's called Gimsel or Gimsel. I just wrote it. I hope I wrote it to I wrote it to one person only. Wait. Chat there. Can you see it? Yeah. So it's a organic supermarket called Gimsel, and it has everything besides food. It also has a place with body stuff and all sorts of things, and that's where I bought it. And they have 2 types of oil. They have one which is cheaper, where you also get much more volume, and then they have that very little one, but there's a huge difference in the concentration of the smell, so and in the efficacy of it, I would say. Yeah. Okay, well, if there are, yes, it's in Rotterdam, the Netherlands, and someone just put it on. They do not have online sale, just so you know, unfortunately. So I normally have been buying it when I go there, or other people have sometimes asked someone to bring it if people are coming from Rotterdam. Yeah. Okay, so unless there are any more questions or anything, then I think I will just say, well, actually, I do have one question, and that is just because it's the first time I give this specific masterclass publicly like this. So I'm just curious if you feel like you got any information that is worth listening to for an hour. And if you think so, you can just give me a thumb. Okay, so all of you, I just want to wish you a very good evening if there are no more questions. I just see Sander now. Hi, Sander. Good to see you. Okay. So thank you, everybody, for showing up today. And I hope to see you again somewhere, somehow. Thank you.